Hey, how's it going, guys? Thought I'd show you what I've been up to recently. So I'm working on a new project in webvr with some A-frames, and one of the things about this one is it's going to be multi-user. So I'm going to have people, multiple people, some people in VR, some people in desktop, some people in AR, hopefully. Uh, and one of the things that I want people to be able to do is to be able to pick up objects and move them around. So you can see I've got one browser over here on the left and another on the right, and people can pick things up and move them around. Uh, so I had a few little missteps and some challenges trying to get to this point, so I thought I'd share how that went. So what I'm doing here is normally if I was going to make something pick upable or like grabbable so that you can pick it up, what I would do is detect when you started grabbing, and then I would reparent the object in place to the cursor or the controller or whatever was doing the moving. Um, so that's the approach that I took initially. It turns out that doing that in A-frames is actually kind of a challenge. Like A-frames doesn't really seem to have much in way of utilities for reparenting in place. Uh, the basic problem being that if I have an object that is the child of one transform, and then I try to move it to a different transform that has a different position in the world, then the local coordinate or its local position won't refer to the same position in world space anymore. So things will jump around. It's kind of annoying. Um, so I figured out how to do that. It took a little bit of work, but came up with this function here called reparent object 3D, which takes in the object that you want to reparent in its new parent. And the big thing here is that I copy the subject's world matrix into its local matrix, and then apply the matrix from the inverse of the new parent's world matrix, which is a mouthful, I know. But basically, in a nutshell, that just means that we'll end up with the same world transform in both cases. Um, so this is all great, but I quickly ran into a problem after I got that going, and that's that coordinate space problem. So my thing is that when I move this thing around, I'm updating a real-time database in Firebase with the coordinates for its position and its rotation, which is great. But the thing was, as soon as I reparented that object, this position changed over to the new parent's coordinate space, and that thing would happen where it would jump around. Like on this screen, it'd be fine, but on the other screen, you would see it jump because the coordinates that I'm syncing across the network just weren't in the same frame of reference. So gave up on that approach, started a new approach. Now what I'm doing is I'm creating a proxy object. So basically when you start dragging this object, what I'm actually doing is I'll create a new hidden object that has the exact same transform as the guy that you're moving, and I parent that to the cursor, move it around, and then as it moves, I copy the transform, the world transform that is, back into the object that we want to move. It's one step removed, but it keeps the coordinate space the same, and that's what I'm doing right now, and you can see that approach actually works just fine. Again, there are some challenges because A-frames and even 3JS aren't necessarily all that great in going between coordinate spaces. So I thought I'd show you in the code kind of how I'm doing this. So you can see this is a component on the object that we want to move around. So like for instance this cube thing here. I'm gonna do some stuff, cancel the bubble, and then set a flag to say I'm dragging, yada yada yada. I get a reference to the cursor, the thing that I want to move this thing around with, and then I create this proxy object. And you'll notice that I'm handing in the cursor's object 3D. All right, so down in create proxy object, I just make a new object 3D. So this is just an empty object, and I parent it to the cursor. And then here's where the magic is. So I wrote a function called copy transform that will copy the world transform from one object to another object, independent of their where they show up in the scene graph. So here, check it out. So here we are, copy transform. So I have a scratch matrix, which because I need that to do some of the operations. But basically, I have this copy transform that says, here's the source object and here's the destination object. So I do this business where I copy the world matrix from the source object into the destination's local matrix. And then the destination, I apply the matrix, which is the inverse of the destination object's parent's world matrix, which again gets back into complicated math, but in the long run, what this does is it takes the two objects and it copies the world transform between them, and you get to bypass that whole jumping between coordinate space and having everything go foobar for a minute. Yeah. In any case, this caused me some headaches trying to figure out how to exactly do this. So I just thought I'd mention it, and I'll talk to you guys later.